Thank you for joining us today on What's Law Got to Do with It, presented by PwC, the podcast where we look to the past and present of our guests and what they think of your future. My name is Jana Ford, and with me today is Victoria O'Toole, my co-host and my colleague. Today we are delighted to speak with Dr. Mimi Zhu, a highly accomplished lawyer. Mimi has worked for and advised international organisations, government departments and tech and professional service firms in law, technology, government and business. Mimi co-founded the Deep Tech Dispute Resolution Lab at Oxford and co-founded the AI-powered dispute prevention company Deriskly. Thank you so much for joining us, Mimi. It's a pleasure to have you on. I have to start off by asking you have a very extensive academic career and it's taken you all over the world. I'm curious, where did your passion for learning first start?
Oh, thanks for having me, Jana and Victoria. I must be actually from a very early age. I was a really curious kid, which got me into a lot of trouble. I really loved maths, actually, and but also drama, music, the arts. I think it was just that curiosity that is innate in many ways. And I see it as well now that I have a son and he's a little bit like that. And it's that sort of thirst for learning, and not just learning from the books, but really learning from people and just experiences that I think really started at an early age. So yes, indeed, I've been very, I've had a fairly solid academic career, but I feel like the last 10 years, I've done a lot more outside academia that has also helped me learn so much about everything really under the sun. And so, yeah, I think it's probably, I can't name exactly when it started, but I remember at school, there was it's a funny story actually. So I did enjoy maths, and when I was 8, I was a little bit naughty. So at my primary school, I decided that the best thing to do at lunch was to graffiti the school walls with maths equations. So I got in trouble from my teacher for graffitiing the school wall. But I said, but I'm doing my homework. And she's like, no, you just can't do that. So that is a little embarrassing story, but it's certainly, I think, captures my nerdiness and also wickedness, if that makes sense.
Certainly, it certainly does. As an academic, have you seen the approach to learning the law change from when you were a student to when you're, I suppose, mapping out your courses?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously there's a big shift in terms of change in the tools that we use in teaching and learning, particularly in the last few years as the pandemic forced us to go online overnight. I don't think it's a bad thing in terms of online or hybrid learning, but certainly technology has been a driving factor in terms of some of the major changes we've seen in learning in really outside the classroom, virtual classrooms now. And of course, the last few months, we've seen the explosion of generative AI, and that's really putting a lot of pressure on the traditional ways of teaching and learning that many disciplines are subject to, including the law. So been having lots of debates and discussions among law schools how to best take advantage of this tool while mitigating some of the risks around academic integrity and also the sort of skills that our students should be learning to prepare them for the future of their legal careers.
I think that's a really interesting questions to be asking, because we often hear when it comes to the legal sector and AI, this fear and skepticism that AI is going to make X amount of legal jobs redundant. How is there any advice that you can give for legal graduates or legal students that would allow them to walk into a career with in law with a bit of confidence and feel prepared for the impacts that AI will have on the legal industry?
Yeah, it's a fantastic observation and question. I think it's certainly the work that I did as a junior lawyer 20 years ago is very different to what it is now. So there's already been a lot of adoption of new technologies. E-discovery helped many junior lawyers basically get some sleep. It's a very different landscape in terms of legal operations and the use of technology within law firms these days. These are things that I feel like we don't still prepare students for, at least within the sort of more traditional legal curriculum, and even in sort of practical legal courses they do after law school. It's not necessarily that they learn to use these different types of technologies. So I do think there is a really strong case to be made that actually the lawyers of the future are not only going to be the lawyers that really know their legal principles and doctrines, know how to argue these cases in front of a court or prepare contracts in the traditional way that I would have been doing 20 years ago. It's really been able to have the competence to use these tools, and these tools are constantly evolving. So that sort of curiosity is essential, the willingness to learn and, basically not saying, oh, I'm so busy, I can't learn new stuff. That mentality has to shift. And I think also the need for kind of creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, these are skills that are still going to be highly relevant in the legal practice of tomorrow. So these are the sort of skills that should be emphasized in both legal education and training, and also within the first few years of practice within the firm. So not just on the hard stuff, the technical stuff, but also basically developing these I don't like to use the word soft skills, because they're really not soft. They're actually really critical. They're skills for survival. And these are the sort of skills that should be honed, particularly during the first few years of practice.
A walking example of that, seeing opportunity within the tech space and to respond to the ever-changing world of tech. For example, with the Deep Tech Dispute Resolution Lab that you founded at Oxford, being the first legal tech innovation lab at Oxford. Can you tell us a bit about what that process was like, setting it up, and maybe how it changed your relationship with legal tech?
Yeah, it's really a great project that I'm very proud of it. It's really, it's not easy at a place like Oxford, which still teaches like Roman law as a compulsory subject. I do appreciate Roman law, by the way, but I think it is interesting that that is a compulsory subject as opposed to say a law and technology or legal tech, which is obviously may have more practical importance for our legal graduates as they prepare for the workforce. Nevertheless, I think it was really great to have so I founded the lab with a collaborator who is in industry, in practice, and he and I basically thought there was a gap there in terms of in the broader context of the UK justice system, the civil justice system, and also just broadly dispute resolution, that this was before the pandemic, but there were already a lot of stress on the systems to resolve people's disputes quickly, efficiently, and cheaply. Now, like, access to justice was really a key driving force for us in setting up the lab, because both him and I really believe in the power of technology to enhance that access to justice in a really dramatic, fundamental way. So I brought together 12 scientists, both social scientists, that includes lawyers, and computer scientists. We were able to work with industry and policy partners in the UK and internationally on a variety of projects that looks into how deep technologies such as AI and blockchain can be better developed and deployed to meet the needs of civil justice and dispute resolution systems. So it was really a very interesting project that lasted for 2 years. And one example of the project is working with the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, on a report and a survey of 1,000 stakeholders on resolving copyright related disputes on digital platforms. And I've been involved since with many initiatives linked to the Ministry of Justice, the judiciary, around basically online dispute resolution, and also data governance structures and projects that are that have been run out of the MOJ. The lab has led to a lot of really interesting projects subsequently, and some team members and I also, after the lab was over, founded Deriskly, which is an AI company that helps enterprises prevent disputes and comply with financial regulation is our focus at the moment.
Can you tell us about your experience within Deriskly and from working alongside a team of machine learning experts to found that company?
Yeah, so I have to say they are really the brains of Deriskly, and it's been such a pleasure to work with people outside of law on really meaningful projects. And to start a company is not easy, and we have been on a roller coaster. Obviously, with the explosion in generative AI, there's been some challenges and also opportunities for our company to develop new solutions, compliance solutions that deploy advanced natural language processing, machine learning to solve some difficult regulatory problems for enterprises. So I'm very humbled to actually work with these very clever people, computer scientists, engineers. It's not easy in terms of often understanding their lingo. I think I've done fairly well. I've been on and off this online degree in computer science in the last 2 years. It's not easy completing the program's a master's program, but I really try my best. And I think the best way to learn is just like basically getting your hands dirty and working on projects directly with them and doing your best to catch up. And that's something I think that younger lawyers might be doing a bit more in the years to come, as they are working alongside perhaps legal engineers and other experts from different disciplines to come up with like legal solutions that are not just about the law, that really is about solving the client's problem in the end. And it may not be a legal solution, but it may be I think it's going to be most likely a multidisciplinary solution. So that's the changes we're seeing at the, sort of in the industry, the rise of alternative legal providers, service providers, and the rise of new technologies that will, back to what you said, they're not going to replace people. They're not going to replace lawyers. It just means that lawyers will be doing different things to what they were doing before. And that can only be positive if those things are involved with more strategic stuff, more complex stuff. So you don't have to have fresh law graduates doing really monkey work in terms of discovery or due diligence. So I think that's the power of technology. And I think more than ever, it's very important to train yourself to be able to learn more new things about technology and work with people from other disciplines.
I'd be curious, what we're saying about these changes that we're seeing and what AI will do in the future. Is there any examples you can give of the gaps that you see in AI at the minute that you think will be filled at some point in the near future?
Oh, it's a great futuristic forecast. So I think I think obviously there's been a lot of AI applied to contract reviews, obviously to discovery, and probably things that already are fairly automated or doesn't require a great deal of critical thinking. And I think that that's the next level. If we're approaching general AI, for AI to almost do more difficult, challenging human-like things like, basically making a decision on making a judgment, adjudication. There's obviously a lot of fear-mongering. Maybe one day I might replace judges, but I think my work in the judiciary certainly reassures the judges that they're not going to be replaced anytime soon. But I see that would be the next wave, is the much more difficult, complex legal work that involves balancing different considerations, and really making decisions that, right now, human judges are competent to make, but certainly, I think judges should be using AI tools to help them, and that would be part of the whole access to justice narrative, that if some simpler cases can be resolved on technology platforms, I don't have if the case is clear that someone owes someone money, you don't really need a human judge to make that call, right? So that less complex adjudicative work can be delegated, I guess, to AI, while the harder, potentially involving more criminal matters, those would still be very much in the realm of a human judge, assisted by AI.
What advice would you give to students who are interested in pursuing a career in the intersection of law and AI?
I don't think you need to do any formal courses like me, because you probably never get through it. I think, at least I've learned some basic programming skills from doing a course online. But I think, obviously with the demands of legal practice in your first few years, it's very difficult to probably do another course, or even in the evenings or weekends. It's pretty stressful. I would just say that they should read widely, and I think I would encourage them to just try some basic programming. You don't need to be an expert programmer, but at least what learning something like that does is for you to kind of think a little bit more computationally, and it just opens up another area of your brain. I haven't done maths for years, and when I started doing this course, it sort of really it was difficult, but it clicked after a little while. And I think if we can sort of open up that part of the brain, you'll be able to just sort of understand some of these new technologies better, rather than just simply from, understanding technology from a legal perspective. It's really only when you step inside the shoes of a computer scientist, or attempt to, that you see kind of the difference in the disciplines, and then be able to kind of be the bridge between the disciplines. If you can, there's lots of coding classes, like free coding courses online. Again, I'm going to emphasize you don't need to learn how to code, but I think it's just really about trying to understand the basics from a computer science perspective rather than a legal perspective. Because if you read like papers that I write, I'm usually writing it from a legal perspective on the legal issues arising from technology, rather than actually delving deeply into the technical aspects. So I think that's what I would advise, is not deeply, but try your best to really put yourself in the shoes of a computer scientist, and read the articles they publish, and do some basic courses, training, just to get yourself familiar with that territory.
I'm curious, maybe you've mentioned such a broad range of interests that you have, like from the very beginning, graffitiing and maths, and you said you're interested in drama and then tech and law. What what gets you excited, and do you find that you're able to find an interest in everything?
Yeah, I think actually that's also a great question. I'm a big believer in being a really great generalist. So like Jane of all trades, but doing it really great. So I think it's probably the end of the specialist era in terms of being an absolute specialist in this one issue in contract or commercial law. It's really now. I think the people who really do well in the legal profession are those who can connect the dots, are respected for obviously their expertise in certain area, but also they're the ones who are very much engaged with the wider practice. And so I think it's also my personality. I just find, like, because of the curiosity, I'm always trying to learn new things. That's where novelty and originality and creativity come from, is when you're familiar with something, but you see something new and you're able to marry those ideas.
Did you imagine you'd end up where you are today? And if not, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I just love the academia in the sense of the teaching and the research, and also leadership roles I've taken on, and the freedom and autonomy to also engage in a wide range of public engagement projects, also be an entrepreneur. And, this is me. I'm pretty sure my 5-year-old self would have said, yeah, you're going to be a professor. So
thank you so much for joining us, Mimi. It's been a delight.
Thank you so much, Jana. Thank you, Victoria.